Hello, everybody. Welcome to one more Block Magic Hackathon workshop. For you guys who doesn't know me, my name is Jeff Beltrão. I am a community manager here at Chainlink Labs, and I will be with you guys today. Just before introducing our special guest, I would like to ask you all to subscribe in our channel, to leave the like, and of course, to register in our hackathon if you didn't do it yet. I will leave the link just here. And don't forget to do it. So today we have the pleasure to invite Ryan Nitz from Base. Ryan will teach you guys how to build on Base. And Ryan, thank you. Thank you so much for being here with us, sharing your knowledge. And please, it's your stage. Introduce yourself and do your show. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Hi, everyone. I am Ryan Nitz. I lead the DevRel team for Base. My background is primarily as a software engineer. Spent about 15 years or so building out pretty complex distributed systems. Eventually kind of got bitten by the crypto bug when I was in about 2012, mainly as a hobbyist. I was reading the Bitcoin white paper, was a bit disillusioned by everything that happened in the 2008, 2009 financial crisis, and everything I read made complete sense. And really it was at that point that I was kind of bitten. Remained as a hobbyist, and then when the Ethereum white paper came out, it was completely evident that this was kind of the direction I saw the majority of the crypto ecosystem running or heading. Being able to run and deploy applications, smart contract on chain, seemed to be a natural evolution of where we were going with everything. So really excited to be here for the Block Magic Hackathon. What I'm going to do is I'm going to just walk through a little bit about what is Base. I'm going to talk about what's new. We're going to talk about how the Base team is scaling the network. We'll cover the path ahead, the bit of the roadmap, and then we'll talk about building with Base. And then finally, we have a section for Q&A. If we have any sort of like just really important questions along the way, please post them. We'll take a look at them. If they're not going to be answered in later sections, we can either jump on them right away or continue the conversation later. The ways to reach me, I'm consecution.eth on Farcaster. This is where I'm spending most of my time these days. If you're not on that platform, highly recommend getting on there. This is where much of the healthy crypto community is operating. It's not really outrage-based attention. It's healthy conversations about building on chain, and it's really a very supportive community. That said, there's Consecution X, and there's my Telegram below that if you want to reach out. Happy to chat with y'all who are building on Base. So diving into it, what is Base? This is normally where I do a show of hands. We're virtually here, so what we're going to do is we're just going to walk through it at a high level. Base is an Ethereum L2. It's built on the OP stack. It's public and permissionless blockchain. We plan to, currently it's being incubated by Coinbase, but we plan to decentralize out of Coinbase in the years ahead. When we first launched Base, we really didn't know what to expect. We had this fear that it would be like Oregon rejected, that nobody would show up, but people were fired up. We came and we told the story about what we were trying to build. We were very intentional in the way that we approached this. And, we just said, come build with us, and people came along, and it's been really incredibly exciting. For those that are not super familiar with an L2, I'll walk into that a little bit later and why an L2 and what the motivation is there behind that. So at the core, Base is an economy. There's a market, a capital market. Those are assets. Those are value, things that are transferred with value. The core is the network. That's the developer platform. And then you also have an app ecosystem that resides on top of this. We originally launched a network, and we realized that Base is much bigger than just a technical platform, and that's why we decided to kind of codify our approach to Base as an economy. If you were to take and make a comparison to other economies out there, one of them that you could do that's super familiar with everyone is the Apple app ecosystem. You know, there's a distribution mechanism. There is a app store, etc. The important parts that are really different here is that we're definitely not going to gate your application. It's public permissionless. Anybody can deploy. So we aren't going to be any sort of overlord in terms of who can deploy on Base. Base is for everyone. We're definitely not going to take 30% of your revenue. Like, we're not going to take any of your revenue. You're free to build whatever you want with value, and you're able to do so. And, you know, more importantly, you don't need, you know, to have the money for an iPhone. Anybody can come and build on Base. It doesn't matter which country you're born in, which country you're living in. You're able to come and develop on the Base platform. When we kicked off, it was 1 million developers and 1 billion users on chain. This is our lofty goal of where we want to go with Base. Along the way, we really realized that we wanted to come up with and have a bit of a clearer mission. So the mission is to build a global on-chain economy, increases innovation, creativity, and freedom. Let me unpack that a little bit. One of the important parts about freedom is economic freedom. Economic freedom is so important to everyone who has it and who doesn't. It's important for them to gain access to it. There are all sorts of research. There's all sorts of studies out there that show that all the things that we want to see in life, we want to see higher GDP per capita. We want to see increased literacy. We want to see longer life expectancy. We want to see happiness. All these things with increase, they go up and to the right with economic freedom. And all the things that you don't want to see decrease as economic freedom increases. So this is like war, this is corruption. These things all go down as economic freedom increases. Additionally, creativity, also lots and lots of studies that show that happiness and fulfillment in life are directly tied to creativity and people's ability to express their creativity, whether that's through, you know, new graphic design, new art, or whether that's like very well-written code and intricate algorithms that are inspiring. So creativity takes a lot of different approaches. And then innovation, like, we're all trying to build the future here. We're all early. And we really are trying to shape the world that we want to live in. And so all these things together really pull into what Base is trying to build and in terms of our mission. So now one of the things I'm going to touch on is Y and L2. And I'm not sure how many of you have seen this chart, but these are the number of transactions per second that are occurring. The blue line is Ethereum L1. The red line are the L2s. L2s, in order to be considered an L2, your native gas token needs to be Ethereum or ETH, and it needs to roll up into the Ethereum L1. If you're using another token for gas, then, you know, technically you're what's considered a side chain. When we started looking around at when we realized that we wanted to build Base, and we started looking around at the technology, we were really impressed with the ethos of the Ethereum foundation, the Ethereum community, and we were really aligned personally on the Base side with it. So it seemed like a natural progression. Additionally, the L2 technology is backed by Vitalik. He sees that as the same scaling mechanism for Ethereum, where you still get the decentralization, you still get the same trustless environment through the L1, but you can namespace transactions on different L2s. When we launched Base, the scaling factor over Ethereum was about 2x. And you can see that blue line, which is Ethereum L1, is effectively flat. And it's been flat for a number of years. And the reason behind that is there isn't a lot of additional bandwidth or capacity on the Ethereum L1. It's basically at capacity. And so without the L2s, there's really not a clear path for scaling the network as it stands right now. But when we launched Base, it was about a 2x scaling factor. We're at 10x now. It'll be 50, it'll be 100x, 1000x. this is clearly the way that things are moving. It's kind of inspiring. I love looking down at the bottom of this chart. And so you see that Base is actually leading the charge in terms of L2s. Arbitrum is number one, and Degen chain, which is an L3 on Base, is actually in third place in terms of the number of transactions per second that are occurring in the blockchain. So we're excited to see this growth. It'll definitely continue on in the future, and it'll just keep going up and to the right. So we talked a little bit about the L2, what Base. Now I want to talk a little bit about what's new on Base. So some of this came out recently, some of it came out a little while ago, but we worked with the OP Labs. Base became the first external contributors to the OP stack. We worked with them on the Canyon and the Delta upgrades, but where we really cut our teeth was on the Ecotone upgrade. The Ecotone upgrade integrated and incorporated EIP 4844, affectionately known as proto-dank sharding or shard blobs. That was incorporated into the L1, which gave the ability for L2s to publish data into the L1 in a much more efficient manner, and in the process drove down fees significantly. This is our first major contribution to the OP stack, but we will definitely continue to drive these forward. I'll talk a little bit more about Ecotone and 4844 and how it impacted Base in this discussion. We also released OPVM and WAGMI. OPVM is a series of extensions to VM that enabled more seamless bridging. These changes that we created have since been upstreamed into the VM stack, and we're working on getting WAGMI incorporated into OP WAGMI, incorporated into the standard WAGMI distribution. We also, did the upgrade to Sepolia. We've been working tirelessly to improve the network resiliency. Everything runs 24/7 here, and so there's no room for any sort of downtime. And we've also been providing a lot of learning guides and tutorials for the ecosystem, for the community. We feel it's important to help everyone develop. It doesn't really matter if you're building on Base. These tutorials will work on any EVM equivalent chain. But we're obviously biased a bit on our side, on the Base side. So this is some kind of things that changed pretty significantly over the last 6 weeks or so. Base became the number one L2 in terms of transactions and in terms of transacting addresses. And you can see how, at this point, we're actually above Arbitrum and continue to scale. Base also became, in terms of the number of builders, I really find this chart interesting because one of the things that you're seeing is you're actually seeing a dip in the number of active builders on the L1 on Ethereum, and you're seeing the number of builders that are going into L2s skyrocket, and Base is that blue line that you can see at the top. I think this is the future. I think that the transaction fees, the latency are all really high on the L1. I think the real innovation is going to occur on the L2s. You see polygons basically went flat, and the kind of the one that we're chasing after is the BNB chain at the top. Base doesn't actively look at like, oh, we can go to this ecosystem, we can take these builders. Like that's like a self-defeating approach. The way that we're viewing this is that there are enough builders everywhere that and that those numbers will continue to increase. So we're really confident that there's room for everyone to succeed. The L1 though is an interesting turn of events. Those aren't actually developers leaving the EVM ecosystem. Those are developers just simply transferring over to L2s, which I think we'll continue to see in the future. Base became the number one L2 in terms of DEX volume, and this is continuing to grow. The TVL on Base is growing as well. Base doesn't have a native token. There's no plan to issue a native token. So we're currently, in terms of TVL, we're number 3. If you take a look at OP mainnet, there's obviously 3 billion or in change of OP tokens in that TVL, 4 billion or so on Arbitrum. So we think, towards the later half of this year, we'll actually surpass both the OP, mainnet, and Arbitrum in terms of TVL on the platform. In terms of scaling, so this is an important thing. So we drove fees down massively with 4844. So you can see that, you're looking at 30 cent, transfer fees, which was way too high. And we took those down to a quarter of a cent, 1 cent in some cases. And as a result, you can see the chart on the right, transaction volume went up about 4x immediately as soon as transactions came down. People started perceiving the network fee is basically free, and so the activity on the chain skyrocketed. And I'm sure that people are there. They can guess what happened next. And if you guess that the gas fee spiked, you're absolutely right. What happened is congestion pricing kicked in on the network, and the network fees drove up pretty significantly. And so this is a bit of a rude awakening. We knew that the transactions would go up. We didn't know by how much. And so what are we doing about that? We are increasing the gas target. We increased the gas target, and we'll continue to increase the gas target in terms of, so that's the number of transactions per second increases on the network. So our goal is about 400x in 400 days. We're currently at 5 megagas, and the goal is to get up to 1 gigagas in order to keep those fees as low as possible. One thing that's really important to consider about Base is that we don't have tokenomics. We don't have a token. There's no native token. There's no gas token outside of Ethereum. So on our side, we're super laser-like focused on driving fees down to sub-cent, no matter what the volume is on the network. And we're continuing to optimize the Ecotone, the 4844 implementation that we put into the OP stack. And so we think there are additional savings coming there. And then also increasing the gas target will also help, increase the number of transactions per second that are capable before kicking in any sort of congestion pricing. We're being very cautious and very deliberate about increasing this gas target. The last thing we want to do is destabilize the network. We also don't want to create a situation where you need to run a mainframe in order to run a node. And so we're doing this, working closely with node operators and node people running nodes, and trying to get out the message as much as possible when there's any sort of change that comes into the network. So this is how we're scaling it. Now that we covered a little bit about what's Base, where we're at, and how we're scaling the network, I want to talk about the path ahead. So before we get into the path ahead, one of the three things that are really influential in everything that we do with Base are looking at cheap blocks-based wallet technology and identity. So we view these three categories as some of the primary blockers for mass blockchain adoption. So cheap block space, you can't pay a quarter of a cent, you can't pay 1 cent in network fees if you're transferring 5 cents. I mean, you can, but it just doesn't make a lot of sense. So we want to make sure that the network is cheap enough, no matter what geography, what country, what location you're in, what the economics are of the transaction. We want to make sure that that's as cheap as possible. And so, paying a 2% network fee on a transaction, you might as well use a credit card. It's not a great place. And so we're laser focused on, as I mentioned, driving those fees down as low as possible. The second major hurdle that we see is wallet technology. So EOAs, are great. They've been just the catalyst for the blockchain adoption. But really, these are wallets that are designed by engineers, for the most part, for engineers, and the user experience is not anything that we're going to onboard another billion users with. And so I can't give my mom an EOA, tell her to go create a secret phrase, keywords. If she backed it up, she'd probably put it on a Post-it note on her monitor or underneath the keyboard, and would lose it. And then I'd be receiving text messages every 5 minutes with screenshots. Should I sign this? Should I sign this? And so this isn't the experience that's going to onboard the next billion users. We really need a Web 2 experience in order to bring mass blockchain adoption. And so smart contracts wallet smart or ERC 337 came out. Account abstraction about a little bit over a year ago. It really was highlighted at ETH Denver. And ever since, there have been a lot of different players out in the space. Like you've got Economy, you've got Alchemy, Pimlico, you've got Safe, you've got all these different people that are providing account abstraction. Coinbase providing account abstraction infrastructure. That's bundlers, that's paymasters. Those are the core components. And then you also have a bunch of people who are building smart contract wallets. And we believe through this experience and through the innovation that we're seeing with passkeys that we're going to enable wallet onboarding without having to install any software, no browser extensions, no downloads. You'll now be able to take advantage of the secure enclaves that you have on a Mac or on a Windows, on a PC, Android. You'll be able to take advantage of these using passkeys. And we think that this will help move the industry forward. So taking away the software downloads, one, increasing the experience so that people can get like a buy, a sell, a transfer button instead of like clicking that button and then having some cryptic message to sign come up and approve. And so I think it'll increase security. It'll also increase the user experience. The last major blocker that we see are that influence our roadmap, especially in 2024, is identity. Right now, there's the foundation for identity out there, but there isn't a mass kind of adoption for identity out there. And so, what I mean by this is, I can't get a loan on chain. I can get an over collateralized loan, which is great if I wanted to like arbitrage an NFT or something, or I wanted to rebalance some financial position, but I can't go out and buy a home with an over collateralized loan. And so until we get identity, we're not going to have credit on chain. And until there's credit, you're not going to be able to borrow assets. And the size of the economy is going to be limited until this credit can help expand it. And so these are three things that really helped us frame our roadmap for 2024. And now I'll get into the high-level focus for this roadmap. And the reason that we're being so open about our roadmap is because we want to make room for people to build alongside of us. We want to enable those to build alongside our roadmap to help amplify their projects and their space. And I just posted a link, and we'll post it to the chat. And for more details, you can obviously go into the full roadmap to get more information. But decentralize and scale, enable everyone and everywhere to come on chain, building a powerful developer platform that enables anyone in the world to build a world-class on-chain product. And I'm going to dive into these further in the next section, but nurturing a vibrant ecosystem apps that gives consumers, creators, and businesses a reason to be on chain. And really a creator, a lot of people think a creator may be a creative or a designer or artist, but really a creator is anyone who's a builder, anyone who's coming out and producing something new. And then lastly, we're going to foster a deep capital market that powers the interconnected on-chain economy. Diving into that a little bit, supporting builders and creators to come on chain. This is broken down into giving better experiences, gasless transactions, seamless paymaster experiences. This is also tied into empowering the next generation of builders through free tutorials and training. And the DevRel team, my team is really largely responsible for producing a lot of that content. And then promoting more projects through Onchain Daily. So we are releasing, we have a program called Onchain Daily that we use to highlight builders that are producing innovative solutions on Base. And then lastly, support and fast-growing decentralized leadership teams. So Base management has been one of those. There'll be more that come out this year as well. Accelerating the decentralization, we're working with Optimism to launch fault proofs. We're doing additional work to increase the resiliency of the sequencer. In the process, we're open sourcing all the work that we're doing. Mainly, this is related to high availability and failover. We're collaborating on alternative fault proofs that will help us make progress to becoming a stage 2 or a fully decentralized L2. If you want to see the criteria for that, you can also go to L2 Beat. They are listing out, they have the stage 0, 1, and 2 criteria, and they showcase where all the L2s are. And then also we're supporting the launch of the Optimism Security Council in order to further foster decentralization. Driving down fees, I touched on this pretty much already. Like I said, laser-like focus, sub-second transaction, and we'll keep driving down that as well. Making smart wallets the default. As I mentioned, wallet technology is a blocker. I think we think over the next year, we're going to see a wave of migration away from EOAs into smart contract wallets. And that includes, like, there's additional work to be done on driving 4337 adoption. It's supporting exploration into efforts like EIP 3074, 5003, 7212. And then also we're going to partner with Coinbase and other large apps to help them make the transition into smart wallets. Making it dead simple to on and off ramps. Right now you can on and off ramp in Europe, parts of Asia, United States. You can do that pretty seamlessly, but there's still a lot of places around the world where it's still challenging to on or off ramp. It's also, every single provider, there's KYC requirements, et cetera. So making it easier for people to go through that process, as well as to getting access to the ability to on and off ramp. The ultimate goal is there is no off ramp. People are able to use assets on chain, and so one of those things that we're doing on that side is we're trying to encourage and work with local stablecoin people that are building local currency stablecoins. Most USDC, USDT, pretty common. They're available everywhere, but most economies don't. They operate on a local currency, and they're not using the US dollar as their local currency. And so in order to really make crypto functional, it's making sure that people can use local currencies in order to transact on chain. And then bringing Coinbase on chain. Coinbase it operates a lot of centralized components. It's definitely a crypto forward company, but there's a lot of the components inside of Coinbase that are still not on chain. So working with Coinbase and others, and one of the things that we're going to do in this process is we're going to take our findings and we're going to share them on chain online, so that others can learn from this and use this to help bring even more people and companies on chain. And then making the super chain seamless and effectively governed. This includes the first phase of interoperability. For those that aren't familiar with the super chain is a series of connected networks governed by the law of chains. They're all built on the OP stack. They're all L2s. Base is one of those super chain participants, and as a result, what we do is we contribute 15% of our sequencer revenue back to the Optimism Foundation in order to fund public goods and in order to ensure the success of the open source that Base is using as the foundation, in addition to developing applications on that. The other thing is we're going to continue to refine the law of chains. It's a live document. We want to make sure it works for everyone. We want to make sure that it protects the builders, and we want to make sure it protects the users who are building and using using Base and other superchain networks in order to make sure that they have trust that they're going to be protected. Nobody's going to mess with block space, etc. We're also working to refine the retro public goods funding process. Base is a part of the superchain, so we're able to give out OP grants as a part of the retro PGF funding or retro funding. To date, we've given out about $45 million worth of OP tokens to builders who are building on Base. And lastly, we're going to participate in the Optimism governance in order to uphold Base and the broader Base to the broader ecosystem values. So that's really where we're headed this year. This is a bit of detail. You should definitely take a look at the article that I shared. If it's not there, we'll get it into the comments. But the next part I want to touch on is really building with Base. As I mentioned, we are being super transparent, not only about everything that we build, everything that we're working on, including our roadmap. And that's, as I mentioned, to give space to build, space to help have your projects amplified alongside Base. A lot of people ask, what do we want to see built? It's really creative, it's unique, it's innovative solutions. We want to see solutions that show impact. We want to see solutions that bring more builders on chain. We want to see solutions that bring more users on chain. It's not necessarily tied to private projects. Like, we're super big proponents of public goods, of open source. And so, one of the things that we've really aligned with on the optimism side is impact equals profit. You don't need to be a starving artist to be an open source developer. You should be able to, if you're developing amazing tools, if you're contributing to the network, you should be able to have a good life, and you shouldn't have to be worried about funding and about everything on that front. On our side, we have grants. A lot of people come up to us, and the first thing they ask us is, do you have grants? And we definitely have grants. We have, as I mentioned, as part of Optimism, the retro funding. The other side is we have base builder grants, which are 1 to 5 ETH grants. Both the retro funding, as is implied by the name, as well as the base builder grants, are all retroactive. And so it's really build on Base, show impact, and you'll be rewarded. What we're looking for is data. How are you driving builders on chain? What is the adoption for your open source library? What does your contract look like for your app, for your DApp? And so we look at all these on that, and the base builder grants are really trying. The goal there is for them to be for non-venture funded, non-backed, institutional backed builders who want to try and take a run at. They built something cool and they're starting to get traction. They want to possibly quit their day job and go work on this, and that's really what the goal is for the base builder grant. Is to try and give you some runway in order to try and build your project out and make it a permanent thing. And then, as I mentioned, the retroactive funding is also part of the process. So really excited to build with you all. You can connect with us, as I mentioned. Farcaster is the main conversation these days on Base. That said, we have nearly 1 million followers on Telegram, on Twitter, and then there's the Base Discord server as well. But as I mentioned, reach out to me if you have any if you want to chat. So at this point in time, what I'd love to do is turn it over to see if there are any questions from the people watching.
What a class! It was amazing, Ryan. Thank you so much. So, guys, if you guys have any question for Ryan, please leave it in the chat. I could check, Ryan, one question that came up earlier from Tip, but he answered down. He commented down saying that you already answered the question with the presentation. But
I can dive into that further, I guess. One of the things that the Base team is going to be rolling out in terms of community is on the DevRel side. We're gonna start decentralizing DevRel a little bit. So we are looking to create a community of people that are rewarded through grants based on contributions. So there's other ways that people can build alongside of us without just simply writing code and creating apps. So, like tutorials. Let me actually throw up the GitHub repo. We're always looking for tutorials. We really think that education is a core part of bringing not only existing builders up to speed on new technology, but we also think it's a way to bring people that haven't been building on chain. And I'll throw in the link for our GitHub repo where those tutorials live, and then throw that in the private chat, and we could just post it in the regular chat. So we're always looking for people to contribute on that side, improvements to documentation, etc. As I mentioned, one of the things that's really important is like Base is really aligned to public goods, and so if you have a library that's making it easier for builders, and it doesn't matter if they're builders on Base, it could be any EVM chain. If you have a library that's really making it easier for people to build on chain, we definitely want to talk, and we definitely want to figure out if there are ways that we can support y'all. Because it's right now, from a builder standpoint, like if you go on the Web 2 side of the world, there's pretty good guardrails in place. It's pretty easy to put up an app. If you do the same in Web 2, it's like, go learn these 30 functions on the blockchain and go learn about all these technologies. And so there's still kind of a hurdle for developers to come build on chain. If you come up with innovative ways, kind of things that you can look at for inspiration would be like VM. VM really took and swept the world by storm. Just a year earlier, it was Ethers and Web3, and then VM came out, and it was like there was like a tidal shift because it became so much easier to build on chain using that library than other ones historically have been. And so, really open and supportive of any sort of public goods open source.
Yes, just highlighting again, here is the link that Ryan.
Can you also post the GitHub repo for the tutorials? There's one more link below that. It's a github-base.org.
Sure.
Awesome. So in light with everything that Base does, as much as possible, everything we release is going to be MIT based. It's going to be completely free and clear open source. I can't really think of anything that we've built on the Base team so far that hasn't been released open source. And if there is something, it's because it's not done yet, and it will be open source eventually. But big proponents. We're standing on shoulders here of giants, and so any way that we can give back to public goods builders, we're looking to support.
All right. So looks like we don't have any other questions for now. Ryan, if someone want to reach out to you later, wanted to discuss, there is any channel, there is anything that.
Yeah, you can get my Farcaster X, my Telegram. I would ask that you just reference the Chainlink hackathon, and just so I have context. And what I would really ask is that send your GitHub repos, send your contract addresses on Basescan, send information about your project, and really want to take a look at that when you reach out. Otherwise, like, I'm happy to say hi, but the next thing will be like, what are you building? Please send me your links. And then that helps frame the conversation. We're super supportive of people that are building. Ideas are cheap. Execution, action speaks really loud. And so when we see people that are doing amazing things, we get really excited. Couple questions popped up. In terms of currently participating in the hackathon, how long do we have to access the grants? So grants are really awarded on a retro basis. So I'll link up the grants application. If you go to base.org and you go into ecosystem, there is a document that we'll post into the chat that really highlights our philosophy. It just kind of iterates on everything that I discussed, as well as there's a form for submitting requests or for nominations for grants. The other question was, what's the difference between other L2 on OP Stack versus Base? So the OP Stack is a public goods. It's available for anyone to run a chain. You don't need permission from anyone. If you want to build your own L2, or if you want to build your own sidechain, I think it was Celo recently announced that they're going to be building on the OP stack. They're moving from an L1 to an L2, which is amazing. Base is running the same. We're part of the super chain, so we're running the exact same version of the OP stack as OP mainnet, Mode, Zora. Everyone that's a part of the super chain is governed by the law of chains, is actually required to run the exact same version of the network. And this way, there's no deviations. The one thing that is different on Base is there's configuration differences, and so our gas target is a little bit different than, let's say, Zora's gas target, because right now, like, Base is getting a lot more transactions per second. This is nothing unique to the chain in terms of, like, from a code standpoint. It's just a matter of utilization and how much we want to scale versus their need to scale now or later. But long story short, running the same OP stack, everybody on the that's operating under the law of chains is required to do so. One thing that this is going to help is interoperability. So the long-term vision is that assets transfer freely between the superchain nodes, the superchain networks, without friction. And if you have people that are running on forked versions or modified versions of the OP stack, then it becomes a much more difficult problem, both from security and technology, if they have to implement something differently. Yeah, that's it in a nutshell on that side.
Okay. So looks like yes. Always when I say okay, someone comes up. That's what I love.
Would we still need Chainlink CCIP with open superchain nodes? So you can. So with any sort of network, cross-chain networking, there are going to be trade-offs, and so you may want to optimize for speed, or you may want to optimize for cost. So there are opportunities still to use CCIP between the nodes. There's additionally CCIP where it's really valuable is taking something completely different and providing messaging into the OP stack. And so CCIP is a valued, or Chainlink and CCIP are super valued partners. They were early. It was exciting. In the early days, you're trying to convince people to come build with you. And, a lot of people just treated that as an opportunity to kind of charge money, and Chainlink showed up, and they believed in what we were building, and it was really exciting. So they were there on day one, and continue to release functionality and features on Base.
Next one, guys. Where is it? Any other question for Ryan? It's a gold opportunity. So
Well, one thing is, if you go to any builder events, you go to hackathons, you'll almost always have the opportunity to meet the Base team. As much as possible, we try and show up everywhere. I think it was, who was it? It was Yalumber. I hope I didn't mispronounce that. I met at ETH Dubai, and is now participating on this hackathon, which is always amazing. So next coming events that we have is we have ETH Berlin coming up, and then we have ETH Global Brussels, where Base will be sponsoring hackathons. Give you a great opportunity to get out in the field. These are quick hackathons. It's less like the Chainlink. It's more gives you the opportunity to build more sophisticated apps. These are weekends in and out. What can you accomplish in a weekend? Always a fun engagement. And so excited to have the opportunity to meet you all over time.
okay. Thank you again, Ryan. Yeah, just for everybody who doesn't know, TG is Telegram.
Sorry about that. I didn't realize that. Yes.
Yeah, someone left the question. It's
Sorry. I should.
most of
I should
them
be.
know.
Yeah. X is Twitter. Farcaster, you all know what that is. Hopefully.
Yes, X is Twitter. Anyway, Ryan, again, thank you so much for your time, for supporting our community, our project, for sharing that rich knowledge with all of us. Guys, don't forget to leave the like and to subscribe here on our YouTube channel. It's really important for us. Also, I would like to remember you to register in our Block Magic Hackathon. If you didn't do yet, don't waste your time anymore. The competition is running, but you're still able to register. And if you are already there, don't forget to access our workshop calendar. If you doesn't know, we have a lot of workshops going on until next Friday. Every day we have different sessions. So here you can check all the sessions. You can also add it to your own calendar to make sure that you won't forget the opportunity. I believe that's all for this session. Again, I would like to thank you all who is participating with us. It's a pleasure for us to provide these sessions to you guys. Ryan, it's an honor for us to have you here. Thank you very much, and hope to see you again in future projects and workshops that we're gonna create here soon.
Thank you, sir. Super excited to see what you all build. Looking forward to connecting. Thanks.
Thank you, guys. Have a great day. Have a great night. See you next. Bye-bye.